Sorry, I should have really done the introductions probably first. I'm Catherine Vaughan. I'm employed by the States on a very part-time basis, and I sort of do bits of this and that, so not waste at all. But I am working on sort of environmental policy, hence the connection with today. I should also introduce the other members of the Plastic Working Group. We've got Annie Burgess, States Member with responsibility for the environment, Kathy Kiswick from Chamber of Commerce, and Claire Thorpe from Alton Wildlife Trust. It probably is worthwhile actually just going around the room as well. I don't know if you all know each other, but I certainly don't know you all, so it would be quite helpful if you could just state your name and what organisation or your interest in the subject. That would be really helpful. Should we start with you, Moira? Oh,
it's okay. Moira Sleeman, and I'm at Farm Court.
Heather Winder, St Anne's Preschool, next door.
James Clark, Blanchards.
Brilliant.
Lindsay McCoke from the Government Control Commission.
Great.
Ingrid Murdoch from St Anne's Guest House.
Jill Knight from Simrock Guest House.
Alistair Forrest, just here as an observer, help the States with some press releases, that sort of thing.
Michelle from the Auburn Centre.
Cheryl State Works.
Peter from States Works.
Good to meet you.
And can I just check? At the moment, we've got it recording. It's not seeing any of your faces, but it will pick up questions if everyone's happy, just so that some other businesses that couldn't make it can maybe use it as a resource. So it's just filming the whiteboard. If everyone's happy.
Yeah.
Great. I thought perhaps I'd just spend 2 minutes literally just talking about, from a government perspective, where we are with the sort of plastics. And Annie, please feel free to step in and add a bit from a political perspective too. So back at the beginning of this year, in fact, it was Gibraltar government instigated the Blue Islands Charter, which the States have already signed up to in September this year, and there was a copy on the table. Objective 5, I believe, on it, and it's not legally binding, but it does give a commitment from the states or the island jurisdictions to work towards a complete ban on single-use plastics entering the islands, and in particular the marine environment. So whilst the States is keen to look at reducing our use of plastic, there's also this commitment that we've made as an island to move towards that. So the working group that's been set up with key players, and it's sort of in its infancy at this stage, but we felt that the very first thing that we ought to do is perhaps look at what exists on the island at the moment, and how the community as a whole could enhance that through sort of education measures, but also us learning again what's important for businesses initially to help with our reduction of plastic use. Chamber was of the view that it should be done on a voluntary basis rather than bringing in legislative changes requiring the community to reduce their use of plastic. So at the moment we're working on that basis. And Policy and Finance Committee have discussed it several times during the year, and just reading from the minutes, they agreed that the benefits of the island commitment to removing as much unnecessary plastic from the supply chain as possible was the long-term aim, and the long-term aim would be towards moving towards being a plastic-free island. I think on that basis, that's probably everything I need to mention. Does that give you a sort of background to it from a States perspective? I'm now going to hand over to Claire, who's going to talk about a few myths around biodegradable plastics or not. And then Kathy will open up the discussions about how what works in the island currently, what is not working so well, and perhaps if there are areas that the States can assist with in helping us move towards being using less plastic. Okay, I'll hand it to you.
Hello. So yeah, basically I was just gonna give you a little bit of information about some of the pitfalls that I'm sure a lot of you will have already sort of come across, and that's stuff like biodegradable plastics and compostable plastics. So it's something that is quite often seen as a solution to plastics. And I think most of you have one of the forms for the Plastic Free Champion Awards. So one of the things that we've said on that is that we won't accept replacing regular plastics with a biodegradable or compostable plastic as a sort of solution, because they've been shown to not degrade in the marine environment, and that's obviously one of the main problems here, is that if it does manage to escape, then it's not degrading any quicker or any differently than regular plastics. You will quite often see bio or just degradable plastics. They tend to be virgin plastics made from petrochemicals, but they just break down in soil, so they have sort of chemicals added to them so that when they hit sunlight and things, they'll just fragment and become microplastics, which is why I wouldn't say they're a real solution. And I mean, you guys have got it really difficult because a lot of these manufacturers put things like a flower or a world or green things on their products. So it does make it a lot more difficult for businesses that are just trying to, get stuff done to, realize that the manufacturers are having you on a bit. So hopefully we'll discuss some different solutions to that. There are a few cases where compostable plastics can be used. One of them is things like dog poo bags. They're incinerated anyway, so by at least not using oil, petrol, plastics made from oil, you're at least reducing the chemicals and the output into the air when they're incinerated. Bin bags is another one that I would say almost compostable is a bit better because they tend to be incinerated as well. But if you could use something else, then that would be better. And yeah, that's it really. I mean, if you've got any questions about biodegradable plastics, compostable plastics, do ask. I mean, the other thing with compostables is that there's no commercial composter on Alderney, and that's what most of them need to break down anyway, because they need high heat for a long period of time. So even a home compost wouldn't do it. So things like the vegware tubs and things wouldn't. And I'm sure these guys can tell you that it can cause a lot of problems in recycling streams as well, because they're not commercially recyclable, because they're not produced in enough quantity, but they can ruin a whole bale of recycling. But yeah, so if you've got any questions on that specifically, then do let me know. And otherwise, I think, yeah, you've all got the forms for the Plastic Free Awards. So we're just hoping that will be a positive way to kind of show what businesses in Alderney are doing and promote the ones that are doing something to reduce their plastics and reduce their waste. So if you've got the time to just let me know some of the plastics or just waste items that you've reduced or removed, then we're hoping early next year to give the awards out, and you'll be featured on the States of Alderney website and the Plastic Free Alderney Facebook page. And we can sort of backdate it. So if you've done anything since the start of 2018, then we'll count that as well. So since Alderney got the sort of plastic free status.
What did you say about the dog poo bags?
I would say that's one of the that's one of the few times where a compostable bag is probably better, just because it's always going to be incinerated. So if it's it's using less chemicals, you're not using fossil fuels.
But in the old days when we used to kick them, I don't have a dog, but I used to years ago. We used to just kick their poo into the brambles. Is that so bad? Is that?
There's a lot of cattle on the island, and that it can cause miscarriage and things like that in cows. So
also
probably
they
wouldn't
carry some of the dogs.
Yeah.
They're not worm regularly. Carry the eggs that cause the worm that goes behind one's eyes. So
Yeah.
it's quite dangerous for that. And I know the States Works Department had a problem where it's already each person thinks, well, I'm only kicking it under that bench or under that hedge,
Yeah.
when the number of dogs we've got on the island, which is in excess of 500.
It's huge.
People are kicking it.
Cultural
Yeah.
team as well, when
The
they're
next
swimming, they end up
They
covered
get
in it.
plastered in it. And
So they have these white suits.
I don't have-
covered in it.
Yeah.
I'm just asking the question. It's
Yeah.
interesting.
Can I answer the question as well? Recently, you see it on social media, you see, especially young design students coming up with ideas that replace plastic bags, as in recently there's somebody who's doing it from the byproduct of fish scales. But would that be something that as an island we could perhaps do, where we could get involved with universities and perhaps help test their products if they are, it looks like a plastic bag, but it's actually made from fish scales, so it's completely.
Seaweed as well, don't
Yeah, but I just wondered, is that something that we could do as an island, that we could perhaps promote young people design eco-friendly and then perhaps test it out in businesses and things like that? Wouldn't that make good promotion for the businesses and for the island?
we're trying to look at some of the universities that are running waste management courses in the UK, and that would be exactly what we could do if we did a BSc or an MSc student who wanted to do a dissertation thesis or something like that, or they're already looking at that to try and
And if we could get the business, if you know, was viable, obviously, that might be something that we could do as an island, couldn't we? That would again give us some promotion and good for the business, because you could put your names to it as well.
And we'd obviously be in contact with you guys if we do manage to tempt someone over, to make sure you know and get the opportunity to be involved with that.
I think going back to the dog poo bag problem is also trying to discourage people from buying the nappy sacks, which don't break down at all, because they're very cheap. They can buy 200 children's nappy sacks to pick up
Poo in
poo.
everything is good, because a lot of them don't.
So you're toying between trying to encourage people to do it and encourage them to use the right things, or just encourage them to do it full
So
stop.
encouraging the businesses to sell
To sell, correct.
the right ones. So that we
So
can
do
buy
they
them.
not make a compostable nappy sack? So
Probably, but not.
Not that I've
Claire
seen.
just said that there's very little
I mean, again,
Compostable
with something like
plastic.
nappies, that's probably
Yeah, I
another
know,
one where,
that's
yeah,
one of
that's
the
what I mean, like,
things,
that's
isn't
another
it?
one where you could probably use compostables, because it's always gonna, yeah.
Something I've noticed on this, over the last year, we've been told in tourism that tourism increased last year, number of people coming to the island, but the waste decreased from what was shipped out.
I haven't looked at this. Well, that's good, isn't it?
And I think people are just more responsible.
Well, where is
Is it the recycling or the black bag waste?
Which one are you looking at?
So this is the chart.
So you're saying tourism
Yeah,
increase?
so the plastic has gone down a lot. Okay, we've still got December.
Do you think it's just people are not more aware?
I don't know, because the plastic bottles have
Yeah.
gone up.
This month with anything being shipped out.
The plastic bottles have gone up.
Overall, though,
No,
that is,
yeah.
if you think from August, we look at actually reducing.
It's recycled.
Except from sort of October, then it's not.
I don't know what point you're making, Jill. Sorry, I'm being thick.
The only thing I would wonder is whether people are just generally more aware of waste, full stop, and producing less of everything.
It's still bringing in hundreds of thousands of bottled water, but it's not being shipped out in August when there's hundreds more being sold, because it's the busiest month of the year. So those figures don't really add up in my thinking.
I mean, I don't know the ins and outs of these figures. Richard Phelan
And he's,
sent them through
and
today.
he's slightly at a loss of that as well, we're trying to learn.
Don't you think it might be to do with busyness? So the boat is actually quite full in August anyway. So when we ship things off, it's a case of space in the boat to go. So it goes to Guernsey, a bailed container of plastic bottles is a whole container. In August, of course, we've got a lot of cars, a lot of tourism. It could just be a case of sensible waiting for that, the busiest month to go down, and then reusing, taking maybe they're being stored.
huge difference between October.
Yeah, so I'm saying that I think it's probably a build-up, isn't it, when the boats are so busy.
Twice as much plastic as August?
Well, if you notice, it seems to go with the month before, not so much, then the month, I think it's catching up
Yeah.
constantly, isn't it? But maybe that, you see, the thing is
The overall
maybe,
figure there is
Yeah.
quite,
Quite low
It's the
compared
overall
with
total.
2018, and they've been promoting through recycling plastic with all of us
You look at
for
the
the last
plastic
year and a
in-
half.
plastic
This
in
is
general,
clear
the
plastic.
that's
silver,
really good,
Just the
isn't
clear
it?
plastic.
Isn't that a good thing?
clear,
Are we not
the
just
silver
seeing the
one
bottom
goes
line
from total
down?
10,000 to total 4,000.
Which is half. Is it because we now know that we can't throw all the plastics away? Are we not being more?
We're using them more.
Because before we were literally putting all the
Noticed
plastics.
a reduction in it.
Yeah, when we were sending them up, before we got the lists of what you can send and what you can't, on the boat, I noticed we literally just, if it wasn't plastic bottle, we just put it all in one. But now, of course, you're having to go, that's not recyclable, that is. So that might actually, why the differences is in 2000.
Yeah, and this plastic as well is just clear plastic.
Yeah.
Anything that's clear, like
Yeah.
that, if it's got more than 50% of colours in that in, then it won't be in this column of plastic.
It's general waste.
That goes as
And I've
a
noticed-
separate bale that is then, I think it goes to, I think they call it RDF for the, where they burn it for energy or whatever it is. they do.
One that surprises me though is the plastic bottles, because I thought that would be a lot less with the kiln plant.
Yeah, we were saying, yeah.
And it was
I mean, Hannah has
more-
said how many bottles that she hasn't brought in,
Yeah.
and we still shipped out more.
I mean, we did a bottle bank yesterday, didn't we? And it's absolutely, it's a horrendous amount of plastic bottles.
The big container down the recycling, we just put all of that, the whole thing was overflowing, and we just put it into one bale, and I think it came out at, what was the weight you did the weight?
Or something.
It was about half a ton,
Yeah.
basically.
But that's all plastic bottles. It's not
Yeah, it's
just-
all just plastic
No,
bottles.
no,
it's
yeah,
half a
all
ton.
plastic.
And that's
Is that mostly water bottles?
just bottles.
Yeah, bottles, whether it's
Water
washing
bottles,
machine,
everything, everything.
Yogurt
Yeah,
pots,
yogurt
all
pots,
sorts.
yeah.
But
I
yeah,
think as well for
it's about
you
half a
guys,
ton.
like you don't have a weighing pad, do you? Like that,
We've got
a bit more difficult to record. Like in Guernsey, they have the pads to weigh everything that
Yeah.
goes into
And
their
sometimes we'll
things, so
have,
it's a lot easier for them to have exact figures.
Yeah.
we'll have, like Annie was saying, yesterday we did a bulk bale, that's now been put to one side, weighed, written down, but it might be shipped off island for another month,
Mhm.
because we might end up,
It's Christmas.
because it's 12 bales to a flat to be shipped off island, we might end up with 15 bales, so we'll just put 12 on, send, put 2 bales, and it might be those 2 bales just keep getting put to one side, don't actually get shipped off.
I
there
presume
for
that's
3 months.
the zero in a couple of
Yeah,
the like
just the
things
way
like
it all
aluminium. It just
Yeah,
had
the
to
way it
wait.
all rotates, it might be that we actually have a bale that just for some reason keeps getting rotated to one side and then we're actually getting shipped off island until eventually it does go off and then it shows in the figure for that particular month, but it might have been 3 months before that it was.
So that's why the.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
last week,
Yeah.
last week we actually got off 2 flats, we sent off 24 bales.
Yeah.
And that then got us down to no bales again, and we're now building up to have enough to send off, which will be next week.
It's just waiting for the quantities, isn't it, to come through.
Am I allowed to ask a question about the states and, what things have they put in place to import less plastic?
I don't know myself.
Because I remember being down there last summer, getting some card or doing, I've forgotten what I was doing. And there were some things that were brought in and they were absolutely covered in this sort of cling filmy stuff.
Oh, you mean that's
Round and round and
Plastic
round
wrap,
and
which has been
round.
put round to,
I mean, that's
So-
huge.
because they're being, some of these bales keep getting stored outside because we can't store them inside because of the fire.
That's not our plastic bags, I don't think. It's
That's-
just,
that's
that's just,
suppliers,
that's
suppliers.
that's a manufacturer's issue.
funnily enough,
Yeah.
so funnily enough, Bruno, part of the Ordinary and Channel Seaways, has actually put a question to the workshop asking if there's anything that's coming up on the market that could replace these plastic wraps. Because sometimes you get a consignment in from the supermarket, it'll always be wrapped. But sometimes they come in loose, and if it goes into a container, you have to put it on the pallet, you have to unwrap it.
Yeah.
And they
I mean,
use this
even ours,
plastic, so-
we wrap all of ours in plastic as well.
So-
for them
so
to get
the
shipped out. I
question-
mean, it's
Well,
ridiculous.
it's just
So the
ironic.
I know,
question
it's
is,
To stop the wind
So-
blowing it everywhere
yeah.
as
So
well.
But is there a
we've got
way-
a question that is now being asked. Can we sort something
But
else
here's
out?
another thought, that when these things come in wrapped in all this plastic, can that be reused by us? Can,
No,
It's a bit like cling
stretched
film
out.
rather
Cling
than
film.
stretched out.
It just-
yes, but I reuse cling film.
There's a lot of
If
stretch on
I've
it.
still got some old cling film in my, yeah, of course I do. I've got some old cling film and I'm trying, I don't want to have to keep, so I reuse it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like you reuse
Probably one of very
baking
few that
parchment.
do that, probably, right?
Yeah, quite likely, but, you know, I'm asking this question, is it theoretically possible that it could be
No.
No,
reused?
it's almost like bouncing strings.
Yeah.
There's just-
What it is, it's on a
James,
long,
you'll have it at lunch.
yeah, it's on a, because everything we have shipped in is wrapped here as well. One, it keeps products dry, so your product don't get ruined and then you can sell it. Two, it keeps it all together on the boat, so, you know, obviously any movement on the lorries or the boat, no plastic holding up the pallet, it falls off, it gets broken, so it ties on. But basically, it comes on a big roll, you tie the corner of it to the bottom of the pallet and you pull it tight and walk around the pallet, so you're stretching it as you put it on, so it sticks to itself. As soon as you cut that, it just shrinks back down, so you can't stretch it again.
You've already stretched
You
it.
shrink-
It doesn't
Yeah,
it doesn't mean to
basically-
say, it has to- I'm not
it's
saying it has to
shrink
stretch again, I'm
One
just
thing we are
asking, is it
looking-
possible?
There's no
One
there's
thing
no
we're looking at,
use for it.
not for the importing, but for the exporting at least, is we use it to wrap, because when we're storing stuff outside, sometimes with the wind, it starts coming loose and blowing everywhere, so we use the wrap to hold it together so it doesn't blow everywhere and start blowing on the beaches.
This is waste and plastic
Yeah.
recyclables.
So we're looking to, Richard's looking into whether we can get, I think he's going to speak to Bruno, on if we can get some curtain side containers so that we can take our bales straight out, put them straight in the container without even having to wrap them. And then the curtains go down and then that stops the wind getting to it. It's dry, it's safe, it's not being blown around, and then we don't have to then be wrapping all this plastic around. Because at the moment, we have to store them outside because we can't store them inside because then it becomes a fire hazard. We start stacking them up inside the recycling.
We investigated for Bruno.
Yeah, but when you put it
Recyclable
outside, and the
netting.
wind gets to
So
it.
we just put netting over it and that cover each lot rather than that wouldn't keep it dry, that's the problem. But we sent it on to him, so he can now look at that.
I think Richard's going to speak to Bruno about if we can source any curtain side containers.
And that's been, I have actually heard that
Yeah.
already been gone down, so yeah.
Because
That's brilliant.
I mean, it's a valuable point about the shipping on and off the island, and I think the answer is therefore that we are beginning to look at it through the working group. They're working with the main shipping agent, but it's that sort of question that would be really helpful from this forum. I mean, are there other areas outside of shipping that it's worth discussing as a group?
Has anybody approached any of the food places on the island that give takeaways out to say what would be recommended as the best product for them to use so that their takeaways, because there are still some using polystyrene, aluminium boxes, paper, cardboard.
I'd say cardboard.
Yeah,
would be
cardboard would be the better, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, because the polystyrene's not really recyclable.
I would say
is
that
it?
the aluminium is quite good if you
Or
wash
aluminium,
it.
or
Just because the cardboard, I think when it's greasy, it's not recyclable. Yeah, and same with the paper, I guess.
So aluminium always has to be washed, just like anything else.
Everything should be washed.
Everything should be
The
washed.
amount of contaminated bales that go out is shocking.
Yeah, the island does need educating massively.
The Portuguese have already started using cardboard boxes for their takeaway bacon wraps.
Yes.
They're all cardboard, completely
Yeah.
cardboard, so they're not
I
even
think
looking
BJ's
at
has as well, actually.
PJs.
In terms of getting the word out there, what would you find the best way for us to kind of?
I think that there's some sort of leaflet.
Educate.
Or invite us down to look at what it's like when, because you guys are great the way you pick up the rubbish from my place, because I know my neighbours put stuff into my bins as well. But I often think, I wonder if this is the right stuff I'm putting in here. I wonder if I'm actually responsible for contaminating. And I would be interested to know, because what's the point in me doing it? If I'm doing damage, that's the very last thing I
It has
want.
been mentioned that we're going to be doing some open days at some point
I think next year, and Richard, I don't know if he's had
Yeah.
a conversation with you.
I think once we know a bit more, because
And
I've only
also
been
as well
there
for
since
the
June.
children at
So
school,
Yeah.
it amazes me how excited they all get when
Yeah.
they come down. They just want to put things through the window, this is the right thing. And it is, it's weird. So I think that's the key. That to go through the children, that then they're preparing to do, right, and all the rest of it.
And so maybe like sending a leaflet
Yeah.
to all homes and
Yeah.
things like that.
Really
So,
leaflet, actually.
Yeah.
Can I say, there are some people, and you can tell when it's bin day, how many black bin bags they've got, who do not recycle at all.
There's quite
Especially holiday homes.
No, it's not.
No, it's not.
No, it's not.
No, it's not. It's a lot. It's a lot of local homeowners as well. I think as well. I mean,
a lot of the
even
ones that come on holiday don't have the
No.
funds to go down to recycle, so a lot of the stuff. that they're
Yeah,
on-
but most of
they're
them
educated in
now.
the UK. They're
Yeah.
being educated away. The recycling in the UK is massive.
Yeah.
Like
But-
massive.
A plea could go out on, say, Key FM
Yeah,
at
absolutely.
holiday time saying, you know, because it's not so far to go to anywhere. There's recycling outside here, there's recycling outside the museum. You know, there's all sorts of
Yeah.
places you can put stuff.
Which is great, and then the
And
older
big sea
community
guns
don't
as
necessarily want to carry their recycling to the points that are around the island. You can't dump cardboard at the Marray, you can't.
No,
dump-
you can't.
do
It has to
newspapers.
go to Tesco's, and then you get questioned by the Tesco staff why you're putting cardboard in their bin. Well, it's not, it's island wide. It should
So
be
we
able
need
to be
you need
used
a
there.
bin for the cardboard then, by the Mary.
Well, they won't allow because
No,
there's nowhere to
yeah,
contain
yeah,
it, so it's being put there, and then if it's windows.
And
blown
newspaper,
out,
and
then
you've got the financial cost
See, a
around it as
cardboard
well.
thing is, it's really hard, we can fill it immediately in a couple of big boxes.
Yeah.
Yeah, if people don't break it down, then
And
it's
that's hard
Say,
filled it
I can put in
instantly.
a plea for preschool, if anybody has really large cardboard boxes. My children love nothing more than playing with a cardboard box.
They could play.
How much would you lose?
Another thing
If anybody feels like dropping one off.
for a leaflet is to put down the colour of the bins and what goes in them.
Yeah.
Because while they
Yeah.
are labelled, it says the grey ones are plastic, the red ones are can, and the yellow are
But it's so
glass.
worth
But
saying
because
that.
the bins get old and, you know,
Yeah.
it starts getting
Yeah.
broken down. And people from away, because in the UK, all the councils in the UK use different colours.
Yeah.
And no council in the UK is the same. So some councils will use yellow for glass and the other councils will use yellow for plastic bins.
Mhm.
So of course, the people coming from away, the visitors, won't actually know.
They can
No.
And they go, well, at my home, the yellow one is plastic, so they put that in plastic in. Because they realise that they do different colours.
But most of them have got a label on them.
Yeah, but some of them,
Yeah,
because
that's right,
they're
yeah,
old,
labels.
because they're old, the paint starts to scrape off.
If you had a leaflet, couldn't you have put it through or have a mail slot so that, like holiday homes and things, they've got a proper leaflet that shows where everything goes. And
Yeah.
stick it out in their kitchen.
Yeah.
And-
Well, we've had that in the
and
journal,
people got
haven't we?
self-catering.
Not everybody
They
buys
can
a journal.
No, true enough.
No. they
That's
don't
the
do
trouble.
journals.
It's all
They don't
being
do
advertised in
AM.
the wrong places. I think. In the wrong places. Just, you can't reach everyone through the radio, through
No,
the journal
no.
or the press. That's
No.
naive. You've got to move
You've
forward.
got to do a mail slot.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But make it interesting. Don't make it boring because people will just.
And
put it
it's
straight
quite
away.
clear, you know, this is where you can put this.
Yeah. Oh, I think we found when we did the ones with pictures, that
Yeah.
really helped,
Yeah.
because if it was just sort of a list of things, it's a bit like,
And it's making people want to recycle, isn't it? It's encouraging folk to.
Well, you don't have to sort everything manually.
Educate people.
We found it's actually, I think Shirley found it today, a box of chips in the can bin.
In a cardboard box from a takeaway, and it's just chips.
In the can.
So you have to go through everything manually.
Yeah,
That's
Is the states looking at having any automated?
well, we've got the
I mean, for instance-
the can machine, for instance, that's, so you tip the bins into it
Yeah.
and then it separates with a
Yeah.
magnet between aluminium and
Yeah.
steel.
Oh, that's good. So,
Because I went-
so that does that, you don't,
Yeah.
it's
But
often
again, it's
worried.
double handling because it goes to Guernsey and they take it all apart and go through it again.
But then the plastics,
And-
for instance, the clear on the
And
bottles,
a lot of the businesses along the island are actually
that would get
contaminating
tipped,
things.
the big bin, like
Yeah.
yesterday, got tipped into our baler, goes up the conveyor belt, and we're just basically there pulling all the clear plastic and all the plastic bags and the glass that's been thrown in there and everything else, and we just stop the belt every now and then, pull all that stuff out.
Right.
So that's sort of what you're doing, but
No,
that's.
the only reason I ask is
what
because
we're
if, you know, if the states were looking at something to automate it, I mean, even if it meant there was going to be a charge, but my dad used to have a holiday home in France, and where he was, every sort of like 100 yards up the road to the village with the big, like, wheelie bin skips in like a little lay-by. There was two of them. One was general waste, and one was all recycling except glass.
Right.
Glass you took to the bottle bank in the village. Every other thing that was recycled, whether it be tin, steel, aluminium,
Then they probably
plastic,
had guys picking
cardboard.
through all of that. to
No,
separate.
it goes through a machine and
We don't have
magnets
we don't
take
have
it,
one
and
of
it
the
sifts
machines,
it.
yeah,
But
machines.
literally, this truck comes along, there's a dust cart, recycle, it comes up, picks up all the recycling, takes it away.
Same in
Well,
the UK.
Yeah, and it just makes it so easier for people to recycle. So right, where you say a lot of people put their recycling in a black bin bag because it's like, oh, I can't be asked to go down to the harbour and put that in there, that in there. Whereas if there's one big skip, it's like, yeah, I put all my recycling in there, that's one bin, my general waste in there, I'm done.
Yeah.
And then there's a machine that sorts it out. But obviously there's a charge for it, but that's
Yeah.
people are more likely to do it if it's easier
The
to do it.
machinery required probably is too big for the island, possibly. I don't honestly know that.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I mean, I went to one of their, we took some garden waste down to the local municipal tip where it was all sorted, and this place was, spotless. You take, you did the whole dinner party in there, it was absolutely spotless. And there was just, but we couldn't go in there, but there was a shed where all the recycling was done. And that was no bigger than the length of the sheds that you've got down at the view, down at the harbour.
Yeah.
But it's what machinery's in it, I don't know,
Yeah.
obviously you can't go in and have a look.
Yeah.
And it's also what the cost is as well, yeah. But
Yeah, I've seen videos on YouTube that all of these machines that use air and lasers and whatever.
yeah, it blows it up. It's all man, they don't sort anything by hand.
No.
Maybe we should have ask to look at costings, just as if we are going to take this seriously, do we invest in the future like that?
And see how other places do it, what machinery they use to automatically recycle it.
Did you go to Guernsey?
Richard's been to Guernsey.
See, so Richard has been to Guernsey.
We're
how
due to
they
go
do it.
down in the new year. I think, Claire, you're going to be joining us, Richard.
Maybe. I think
Yeah.
I might be taking.
Richard did say though that in Guernsey, even the black bag waste that we send off everything, he said there's people in Guernsey sifting through that. Even that, they rip open the black bags and they go through everything and they pull everything out of that. So it's still a
And
lot of
part of
manual
it-
sorting in Guernsey.
And part of the problem is obviously that Guernsey has a different waste
Yes.
management
Yeah, yeah,
system to what we have in
Theirs
Northern.
is quite confusing as well.
is.
Talk to people that live in Guernsey, they've got like, which I think sort of defeats the object, they've got like 6 different coloured plastic tubs to put all their stuff in at home, and they said, yeah, my daughter says, we haven't got the room for
The
it.
feedback isn't great.
They have waste for the vegetables, anything that
Yeah, from
comes
what
off
I
your
can tell,
table.
there's still a lot of
Yeah,
manual
but
sorting
it's-
They
in
stick in the box and that goes
But
on.
it's so confusing, and people do get
Black
confused.
waste goes.
And it's like, where do you put it all? Where do you put all the bins?
They buy boxes now.
Don't you think-
We blow away with them.
No, they're like big square storage, and then they've got a section with bottles and plastic, and then you have to still put it out. Every different day is a different bag
Yeah.
of rubbish.
Which falls down to-
So I drove around.
'Cause you'd need a whole new
week ago,
dust
and they had these
cart
little
for
tubs
it.
like that.
Probably
Okay,
more
so
than
I'm
one.
just
Yeah, and
conscious
then
we've got
they'll
lots of
go
different
down
conversations
the
going on here. Can I just bring this all together then, please? Can I bring this all together then? Obviously, it's a strong message coming forward to this group. What we'll do is we'll take this away and we'll look at the existing waste management practices. If it makes value for money sense to actually do it in a different way, so that perhaps we put all our recyclables into one bag, as you're suggesting they do elsewhere. But we do need to make sure it ties in with Guernsey or wherever we're exporting our waste and recyclables
Can I
to.
just ask that, where are we? Because it's going to Guernsey, it's still going to go to Guernsey.
At the moment, that's the current plan, existing arrangements. So some of it goes to the states of
Yeah, I
Guernsey
know, but
waste, and some of it goes.
Going to ship theirs out.
So some of it goes to the states of Guernsey
Yeah.
waste, and some of that then gets shipped off island. Some of it also goes to Island Waste, which is like a skip company in Guernsey. And again, some of those waste streams go to different places in the UK or further afield. So it is actually quite a complex system.
But is Guernsey Waste, I thought they were running out of space.
Well,
Aaron
has
looked
into
into-
that's interesting what you just said.
Sorry, so stuff goes to Guernsey and then they ship it from there. Where's it going from Guernsey?
Exactly, and each different types of plastic, glass, they all go to different
follow
places.
through with them, so you actually know that all these items that we're sending off island are going to be recycled.
So Aaron Gray is the one that was.
And he's gone.
Yeah, no, but I mean, he's going to obviously have his position replaced, but it was his role and he took that very seriously, and he had actually sourced that, I think it was 98% made in the UK was recyclable in the UK.
But they've only got 3 recycling plants. in
But the thing is,
UK.
he's also trying to source Jersey. He was trying to perhaps change the way we sent it, because Jersey is a lot tighter management
Yeah.
in their recyclable history, onward history. But that actually, I have to admit.
Well, because
is
Jersey only do
Aaron's-
plastic bottles,
Yeah, Aaron's.
which, because they're the only things
they.
they can guarantee are recycled. So they don't collect anything else. And they are sent to France, recycled.
So if you are looking at how much miles it takes to get rid of the refuse in the island, it's actually much better to do the reducing of what we use, then it's
Yeah, but
recycling.
then you're taking away people's choice.
Well, I think that, can I please make the point? I really think we have to think about putting pressure on the people who are bringing stuff in.
Yes.
That's,
Yeah.
if we're going to expend money,
Backwards.
if we're going to spend money on trying to encourage our recycling to be better,
Yeah.
then shouldn't we be instead spending that money
Yes.
on trying to prevent the importation?
Yeah.
I don't-
You'd be unsuccessful, Laura.
Although the
We
problem-
can but try.
Absolutely.
And how much
We
money is
can
it?
but
But if you're
try.
bringing all these items that need to be shrink wrapped onto the island because they're the way they're transported, you're never going to get the manufacturers on board with that.
But we could start with smaller things like single-use plastic
Exactly.
cups,
Kids'
for
toys,
example.
for example. No, they're not single use.
Yeah.
So the EU has.
No, look at the packaging.
Yeah.
That hard
Somehow
packaging.
Exactly.
We used to buy our carry bags in this, so they all came in a box like this. So great, so we took on paper carry bags right from the beginning, but these string handles are recyclable and they're probably made from plastics and they've got a plastic end on them.
And they send it to you in a plastic
And
bag.
they come in a plastic bag. They come in a big box in plastic bags. So we did a bit of research and we now have these, which are exactly the same size, exactly the same bag, but they have cardboard handles and they come loose in a box.
Well
Have
done,
got
you.
one of those wet?
Brilliant.
No, to be fair, I've never
And
had.
they should go through the
Actually,
cardboard window, not the
funnily
paper
enough,
window
I
at
have,
recycling.
Because I bought something from them and then it rained on me and I was really impressed it didn't rip and it was okay.
No.
Oh, this one.
To answer your question, I've never had anyone come back or say, don't give me that because it's raining. So
Well, and
I've never had them come back.
we can take our own bags to your shop to get things anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, we're supposed to
But
all
if-
carry nowadays a bag in our handbag or in our coat pocket that goes down to nothing at
Yeah,
all.
but visitors won't.
Well, they might. Of course they do.
They
Some of them do.
do.
I visit other places and I take my little bag with me.
So to source it, the other thing that I was quite keen on doing is obviously these come in all colours and all shapes and sizes, paper ones. So why aren't we getting together as companies? Well, I'm happy to get together with this and say, let's all buy from this one company. Let's just pay one lot of shipping. And if you buy these in the thousands, the cost of each bag goes down. And it goes considerably down.
Or not bring them on at all.
Do you know what the cost is though?
This would be 27p.
So it's way more than plastic.
Yeah.
And actually that's coming out of the business's pocket.
Much better to not
sustain the
import.
island to be economic.
But if everybody on the island got them, then that 27p
Goes
comes
down
down.
and down and down
Yeah.
and down. And costs.
But we
Rather
don't
than-
need
rather than
them.
Blanchard's buying from one place, Life and Surf buying from
Yeah,
another
Oh, no, I
office,
get it.
buying from,
Yeah, yeah,
we all
yeah.
get to
Yeah,
the
it's
same
all
place.
It's 27p at the
But we
moment.
don't need them. I mean, the thing is, if we know that when we go to the shops, we're supposed to take our own bags, then you don't have to import your
Well,
person.
in theory, they should drop down year on year on year, and then ours have.
But it's sort of addressing the way we do it now and just trying to sort of re-educate.
Exactly, all the time.
An
That's,
alternative while we're learning.
People
And that's
forget to take their bags with them. The amount of times I forget to put my bag in the car.
And we had, I was telling Catherine, we had our heavy duty plastic bags at Blanchard's that Blanchard's carry bags are famous, they last forever. I mean, they are strong, but yeah. They're biodegradable, so they say reusable, but we are trying to get rid of those. So we've got some bags from Claudia, which we sell, like a bag for life, similar to the farm shop one. We do a cotton one, a jute one. Our plastic bags that we've got, because obviously we bought, over 5,000, because you've got to buy them by the thousands. We obviously want to get rid of those, we're not just going to dump them. So we are selling those now. So if anybody at Blanchard wants a plastic bag, it will cost them 10p. That 10p will go to Albany Cancer Relief. And some people will come in and say, can I have a bag? And we say it's 10p. They're like, oh, I'm paying 10p.
Yeah.
And they'll carry it out in their arms because they haven't bought a bag.
and they do probably, in the case of Blanchard's, have a vehicle outside anyway. So there is
Mostly.
no need.
Mostly, but
You know,
it's when they go into a building site and they've got like 6 different size paintbrushes and a little tin of paint, they do need a bag. So we are cutting down on it that way, but it'd be better if everybody bought the bags from the same place.
Because then you really reduce your cost.
Because obviously our bags that we get from Claudia, they're obviously very good quality, they're good quality shopping bag, but they are expensive.
Zero miles, so James.
I think the cotton one is, we sell it for £8 or £9
Maybe they
something.
come wrapped in plastic.
And no, ours didn't. They just came. Claudia just brought them in like that, walked in and went, there's 50, I'll bring the other ones tomorrow.
It's what Annie says, it's re-educating all the time and trying to get people in the shop. So we think, we used to, in Second Search, we would give out our Allen keys and our bike key, one of these, because it was plastic and we had our business card in it so they could see it. And we thought, the plastic, this is wrong. We're probably going through about 3 of those per bike per year, 120 pedal bikes, that's a lot of bits of plastic. So we sourced little Hessian bags last year, which didn't work because the Allen keys fell through the Hessian. So we then sourced a little cotton bag inside the Hessian bag, which can just be re-washed. And that has done a whole season for each bag. So we've immediately cut down.
Yeah.
You're in for the award, girl.
And we got our own coffee mugs.
You're going to get
But
it.
it is quite hard because yes, we've had these cost more than those cost, but they'll wash and they'll last longer. And hopefully we're using less and less plastic. So
What I would like is bin bags in place of black plastic bin
I
bags.
might plastic bin bags.
Well, years ago, we were
I
told they
thought
were illegal.
Bobby had a really good,
They were illegal years ago. bin
so
bags.
I think Bobby had a really interesting solution to that in Farm Court when she was there. She used old pillowcases, which obviously, I mean, that's not gonna, you then still have to have a bag to put it in, but for something like a guest house, that worked quite well because generally you're not producing that much
That's why I
waste
didn't have
per
so many
room.
pillowcases.
Yeah, that's why. But like per room, generally it's what, a few tea bags, and stuff like that in each room.
Oh, I see.
And then at least then it went into one big bin bag at the end of the week.
See, I still
Which
use
then-
plastic in a, I don't know what you call it, it's like a little
Liner.
Yeah, liner. But when I empty the bin, if it hasn't got a rip in it, I'll use it.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean,
Yeah.
that's, yeah. It's, yeah, well, anything that you can reuse. I mean, yeah,
It's the big, I was thinking more of the bigger.
the big main
In-
bin bag.
In the old days, old day, God, I'm so old. But we were told quite some long time ago that black bin liners were unacceptable on Alderney. We weren't allowed to have them. That's right, Ingrid, isn't it? We had paper sacks. I've still got one of the original ones that I've got my kids' teddies in. Talk about recycling. My children are well grown up.
Sacks that used to stand up on their own.
Yeah, yeah, well, I've still got some. So that shows that they last. And these were paper sacks that we used to have to put in. We were told we had to put them in the dustbins. We weren't allowed to put bin lines. But of course, I don't know how that, I mean, I think people didn't do it. It's true.
The price went huge.
It's easier for the birds.
And they were clumsy. They were nowhere near as easy as, obviously, as plastic. That's the beauty of plastic, isn't it? I mean, that's a fabulous resource, but we've overused it and we're killing the planet because
Paper
of it.
bags perhaps went when we had the big splurge on not using paper because we were cutting down too many trees in the world, so nobody was allowed to use for anything.
Well, these were thick,
Reuse, that might have come.
double layered
They were like
brown
like
paper.
recycled bags. You're not like killing trees.
They were.
Those are not recycled bags, no. They're not made.
So
from
trees
recycled
have been
products.
cut down to make, aren't trees important for the environment?
But trees can be replanted and are replanted on a, now, aren't they, worldwide on a rolling basis.
But they're saying now every time you get on a plane, you've got to calculate how many miles.
There was something on the radio or something yesterday.
Yeah, which I don't understand, because if it's a commercial flight, if the plane's flying anyway, whether you're on it or not.
Well,
So I
it's
don't
just a
understand
major problem, isn't
If
it?
it's
We're
if
all
enough
very
people did it,
selfish.
you would have to reduce the number of flights.
Claire, just a question about the bin bags and the dog bags and the rest. What happens to them? Are they all incinerated?
Dog bags.
The dog bags,
are-
yeah, that's the info at the,
Put in the correct place. aren't they?
incinerator.
Well, yeah,
Right, what happens to the
What happens to the general waste?
the black bag waste.
That goes off island.
that goes off island?
Yeah.
And the nappy
And
sacks.
pressed into a container.
Nappy sacks, but if they're in. the
It'd just be in
black bag
general waste, I
and they go
guess.
in- It depends where people.
And is the incinerator, is it cleaned?
The
In other words,
incinerator,
Yeah, is it, in other words, is it just smoke going into the air?
well, it's got an air curtain on top, so which is supposed to stop the smoke and, well, I say stop the smoke, it's supposed to stop any embers and that flying out.
How often do they use it? A few times a
It's-
week?
Well, we try to use it,
bit windy down.
Yeah.
we try to use it as much as possible to burn the wood, because there's all that wood down the end, and there's just so much of it that it just needs to get rid of it. There's so, like, every day, there's more and more wood just being dumped, so,
But that's all the burner's used for.
so just basically using it for
Well,
wood.
it's just that some
And
incinerators,
the farmer,
dog-
and the farmer will
farmer
also come down and put the
Yeah.
animals.
some large scale incinerators have a scrubbing system, so that
Oh,
everything
okay.
you've got chemicals, you've got plastic and so on, and burn it. That goes into the atmosphere and
Right,
harms somebody else's.
yeah, no, this is just literally, it's just an open burner
Right.
with an air curtain that's blown, that's put on to try and keep everything down as it's burning. But
I think with that, because it's not used for that many things.
it's only
so
used
it's-
for burning the wood, the animals, the animal carcasses and the dog pit.
Can I ask a question? If you're going to be looking at buying all this new machinery, if we bought a,
I don't think there's any commitment to buying any machinery at this stage. I think we've committed to look at it, to review it.
if you looked at it and the cost was colossal, maybe Guernsey could ship their waste to us if it was a select style.
Oh, I don't know.
Whatever they're called.
Can I answer Michelle's question, which I didn't manage to get to, about what happens to the black plastic rubbish that the public puts into their dustbins that gets collected by States Works? So that then gets collected by States Works and is shipped to Guernsey, but actually it's all mixed up with all sorts of stuff in there, and Guernsey's now changing their waste management practices. So it's actually causing a headache for Guernsey, the small amount that we send there. And then that is then shipped again off island to the energy from waste plant in Holland. Somewhere in Europe.
I think it was
It's somewhere in
Holland or
Europe.
Sweden.
So the miles involved in it are huge. And my understanding from Aaron also with the black plastic rubbish is that 75% of Alderley's domestic waste is food waste in that black sack, which again, that's madness to be shipping that off island when you potentially could compost that. And we've had discussions within this group about the potential for composting. It's not an easy one to resolve, and I think Aaron has looked at that in detail, and the costings involved
Also,
are
to
quite
give you an idea of how much we're using it, so on average, we are doing probably once a week black bag off island. And to put the tonnage into the system of the boat, we call it 12 ton. So that's once a week, that's black bin bags.
How many people here have got compost bins?
To be honest, that thing can probably take more than 12
I know,
hours. Just the way- the truck can't take more.
Did everybody hear that question?
How many people have got compost bins for food waste or?
That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6, is that right? That's interesting.
Anybody wants to spend on us if we've got too much?
The thing with that is that tea bags are in a plastic.
So there's no point in having compost.
Sorry.
So I don't have a compost bin. What do I do with it?
And your tea
Oh,
bags.
you wouldn't use it?
No, please.
Your tea bags are in plastic.
Apparently,
So you can't-
I open mine.
I open
Just
mine
split
up.
it.
Yeah, but it still doesn't degrade if you put.
Well, yeah,
that
you just
tea
don't
bag-
put the bag in.
No.
But it's a lot less
You
still.
put the tea in your compost, not the bag.
Or
But-
just
but-
sit it out after when you do compost.
Yeah.
That was why we used the loose tea today.
Just again, as a personal example, I don't think it's not really that relevant, but for a month we couldn't put any more compost in. We literally had to put compost. We couldn't fill it any more in. So for a month we stopped composting our food waste and all the things that could be composted. And we went from having one black bin bag, so 3/4 full every 3 weeks. We had one every week full. And that was the difference between us composting and not composting. And that was really sort of quite I hadn't realised how much difference that was. And I say we literally put the black bin back every 3 weeks because we felt we should buy it because it's summer. But the difference was mad that just by one little compost bin, stop doing that.
Sorry,
Get some worms
although I've
again.
got a small guest house, I tend to have, I don't have so much black bin waste, to be
No,
honest,
so that's good.
but I have huge amount of recycling.
Mistake.
Because all the guests, they're buying water bottles, cans, newspapers, there's just stacks.
I think we're hoping as well to introduce water into that.
Isn't recyclable.
Sorry.
We're hoping to introduce water fountains around the island. Yeah, next year.
And then every time we go to the shop, we've got
Water, drinkable water.
take it to the recycle.
Sorry, can I just keep it down to one conversation at a time? Sorry. Can you just finish? You finish there, and then we'll move on to Peter's.
Your bins as recycle, and then you refill them at the shop and take them home. So you
That
save
doesn't
money.
always work because I won't go recycling if it's windy.
Bless you.
Trying to put it in when it's low. So it sits in my car sometimes for 3-4 days.
But if other people on the island, they normally all drive to the shops and cut them on the farm shop. If they took their recycling with them, posted it in at the recycle, and then got their shopping, they'd save fuel as well. And maybe
Anyone sensible would do that, Jill.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that
There's too much routine on the island. People aren't doing their recycling on Tuesday, they aren't fit. The whole world is going to break down. Do you know what, Jill? I'm not even joking. They will come down there when the weather is howling.
I know.
And they're fighting with it, and then it's manpower for us. We've then got to chase it round the harbour because it's going straight into the sea.
don't need a gym then.
Prefer to be lifting weights than chasing plastic. But it's crazy. People don't like changing themselves when they come down and it's decent weather. I was chatting to a guy yesterday and he was like, "This is amazing down here today, but my wife comes down here when it's not like this." You're just chasing around. You're defeating the object of the recycling.
And you have moved the bins around to try and reduce the
We
wind
put
flow.
a container that's creating a sort of a windbreak, but it's not an ideal situation.
It's when you've
It's
got
not the ideal
doors
place
open
to
at the back.
have the recycling in the
No,
island.
it's not.
really.
It really isn't.
Another thing to include in the leaflet then, maybe.
Yeah.
Sorry, and then
I was
your
just-
conversation.
I was just asking if this kind of plastic is recyclable. Because we don't even know if that is actually recyclable plastic.
Wasn't I listening to something where it said that if you scrunch it up and it comes back up, then it's not recyclable?
I thought it's
It's
Or
too,
is it the other-
it's too general a rule though anyway. Like
Because all this
realistically, you
on
need to
here,
know
the
what
plastic,
type it
It's
is.
clear plastic, so anything like that just gets put in a
Within
clear
clear
plastic
plastic.
bag.
Well, that's why the states really needs to get
And
to
then
the
it's-
bottom
and
of
then
where
Guernsey,
their
I think,
recycling
then
is
go
being
through it
sent,
again
because
themselves to
if
decide
you don't
what's
know that, you
actually
don't know whether it's been
recyclable or what's not.
recycled or not.
So we're separating it as best we can, and then Guernsey is
Do you
separating
think
it
that's why they're
again.
doing it again? Because do they have
It's double handling all the time.
Yeah,
Do you think
and it's not fair on you guys if you don't know.
But I mean, what do we actually do with it? If this isn't recyclable,
Well, is it hard to find out?
then, but what do we then do with it? Do we just put it in black bag waste?
So
Well, I would say yes.
Yeah.
Because if it's not recyclable, you're not helping anyone by putting it in recycling.
can I just clarify then? Because I did go to Guernsey with
Yeah.
Rich and Aaron. So the plastics, which include the plastic bottles and the plastic and the grey headings. And I'm just checking my notes as well, the paper and the cardboard. And there was one other thing, so there was one other one.
Yeah.
Sorry?
Was it glass?
No, it wasn't
No,
glass.
no.
But they go to Island Waste, which is this kind of skip company in Guernsey. So there's a cost to the taxpayer of Alderney for sending it to them. It goes to their big warehouse, and it's still manpower. It goes along a conveyor belt, and everything gets separated out. So as you say, it's being separated again, then rebaled, sent off Ireland to presumably the UK to be recycled. So it is being recycled as far as I could tell from that visit.
That's good to know.
But I think what's coming clear is that we probably need to put more of this information out in the public in a very clear format, and perhaps in that leaflet we'll make that information available. So what actually happens to the different recyclables that you take.
And you still need to
Waste.
follow that bale through to end of life
The very
as
end
well.
of life, yeah.
Could we have some notice boards at the recycling plant with that same leaflet in, and not
Can
just
I-
one
can I
side,
just-
but both sides of it,
Yeah.
so that you can read it all while you're there as well, if you haven't.
That's another good point.
90% of the people down there don't take any notice of those notices. that we've
Because
got
we
down
just
there.
did new ones, like
And
what,
they-
2 months
so
ago?
many
And
people-
Yeah.
they really, it is such a shame. They really don't. They just see a window and put it through it.
Paper through the
Yeah,
cardboard,
paper.
plastic through
Cardboard into the paper bales.
I've seen it, I've been down there.
Yeah.
Is it,
Glass into plastic bottles into the glass, which we all know what happens to the glass.
is it
goes
not
straight
worth
away.
doing, sort of, I know you say people don't read journal press, or something, but doing an article saying, look, because you don't recycle properly, this is what it's costing the island.
That is
Or
something
what
that would have to go
happens-
through Catherine.
Well,
Statement from.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if people realise how much that we pay Guernsey.
But how much do we pay Guernsey?
I mean, I get what you're saying here. It is very important that we get that information out into the public domain, and we'll work on that within the working group and with the states of Alderney. I think though today, just to bring us back to why we're all around the table, it was really to get an understanding of what the businesses in Alderney already do in the way of reducing their use of plastic. Whether there are other ideas that could be shared around the group about that you could help each other.
That you think it would make it easier as well. Make any decisions, that would.
So for something we thought of as a potential, I mean, it's small, but if we did a sort of template that we could send around, that then you could, sign your business name to send to manufacturers, just so it's all set. You just have to then send it to your manufacturer type thing, asking them to reduce their plastic and, reconsider what they're sending you stuff in. We know it's small, but we thought that might save you a bit of time, at least having to write the letter and stuff. So if you just had that template, you can then just something like that, if that would be useful.
And the thing is,
Manufacturers won't change until they're penalised, and this is
Yeah.
what boils down to.
because the manufacturers
They're
are
lining
doing
their
it cheaper.
pockets.
Yeah. I mean, like.
But do you think, if we could just try it, do you think, like Moira's,
Well,
are you
yeah,
going to be
it's who
positive
would-
about this?
I'm trying to be positive.
From my point
Okay.
of view, who would we send, Blanchard as a company, who would we send that letter to? I mean, obviously, we buy tools from Stanley, we got Stanley tools, but we don't buy direct from Stanley. We buy that from a tool, a wholesaler who sells
I
us.
think it might be small
Sells
businesses
us
like
tools.
ours where all our clothes come, each item that you buy from us comes packed in a plastic bag, in a box.
Yeah.
Which isn't necessary. There's one company that doesn't, they just send it loose and they're all stacked
Yeah.
in and packed in, which is great.
From-
So a template for us would be great because it's a bit more powerful from the States of Alderney or Working
Yeah.
Party, or to say, please don't send them, we're quite happy to get them not packed in plastic. But I'm with you, they buy, Joe Brown's will buy it worldwide.
Exactly, yeah.
But it's a start.
Yeah,
and-
so
and it's-
we buy it from a wholesaler that's, he sells Stanley stuff, he sells, every brand you can think of, and we buy it all there. He's obviously buying it direct from Stanley, maybe even buying it from a third party supplier. He could be the fourth one down the chain from where it's actually packaged at, say, Stanley or Dulux or whoever. So by us sending a letter to So one of our suppliers, for instance, Curtis Holt Tool Bank, saying, we don't want to buy this if it's wrapped in plastic. They'd be like, "Oh, okay, get it from somewhere else."
But you could just raise awareness with them and say, we're
I think
allowing
everyone's
China
aware of
plastic
it, to be
free.
honest. I mean,
And
you
just
know,
push it.
the-
I'm not sure where they are. We get, in animal welfare, and myself personally, we get a Veterinary Times magazine every week. It comes wrapped in plastic. It
Yeah.
doesn't need to be, because my address is actually stamped on the magazine inside.
yeah,
So we're now lobbying, practices are lobbying, and I bet you within a month they'll stop using plastic,
Yeah.
because we've lobbied them. And we could use the same excuse, well, we're just one little place in Alderney.
yeah. But I think,
What's the point
I
of
think-
telling them? I think we need to tell them.
I think, yeah, I mean, companies like that send in magazines out. I mean, we get it. Yeah, we get ones from, you know, kitchen places, you know, DIY Monthly and things like that. They send them out, and we actually get 3 of them. One to me, one to Sharon, one to Steve, and they all come posted separately in 3 plastic bags.
That's probably a way of postage.
So that's just the way that they do theirs. Yes, we could probably lobby them and say we actually don't want the magazine sending. You could email it.
I've tried cancelling.
But they still send them, and we're still getting stuff sent to Rob Blondon and James Roberts on, and they've been gone since 2012. So, but it's the branding, it's the people that make the products. I mean, they're multinational companies that everybody's aware with. You know, you've got people on the telly every day. You've got politicians talk about it, and Greta's tipped up somewhere today. So she's somewhere in Europe today. She's arrived with some, you know, thing about plastics and global warming. So they are all aware of it. Places, you know, all these major producers, they are all aware of it.
I think,
But it's just cheaper for them. You can't buy anything that doesn't come in plastic.
I
I mean,
think
you get a
normally
mobile
if you-
phone, it comes in a plastic box.
if you
Just
hit
out
the
of interest,
small
stuff like your
companies-
paint come wrapped in plastic.
Paint comes,
All of it.
The paint, I mean, some of the paint comes in plastic tubs.
And the
Yeah.
paints contain.
And then some of the paints that are mixed, where we make the colour for you, that comes in a metal tin. But if you buy a pre-mixed colour, that comes in a plastic tub. That comes on a pallet, stacked up, wrapped in plastic. Because it's the plastic that goes round it actually stops the product falling over. If you just stacked it on a pallet and that got put on the ship, Bruno would just have a container full of empty paint to clear up. And we'd get charged for that and the paint and not have no product. So, yeah.
Not insured on the boat.
No,
Oh,
that's
it's so
right.
disheartening though, isn't it? Because I mean, what difference do we make as little tiny people
Amazon
clearing up every day
Yeah.
in comparison?
Yeah.
with
Amazon itself.
Amazon plus, yeah.
Yeah.
all
It's
that bubble,
dark.
all that bubble wrap in their pantry boxes.
Yeah.
Mind you, my school love popping that too.
I mean, I just think everything you buy comes in plastic.
It's
It
just been
does.
mounted.
Yeah. But talking about Amazon, you can actually, there is on the site, you can actually send your feedback saying, I would like all my packaging to be in cardboard now and not plastic. And where it's possible, Amazon will send it to you.
We'll do that, we did that a while ago, yeah.
It does work with some companies.
It has made a difference.
I'm sure it wasn't just us, I'm sure everybody lobbied them, but one of our bike companies, which I think was Claude Butler, used all our bikes came wrapped in that horrible plastic polystyrene and fastened with zip ties, so every part of the bike that was exposed came like that. And we lobbied them along with other people, and they now wrap it in cardboard and with paper tape, recyclable paper tape as well, so there's no zip ties, no plastic on it at all, and it comes in a cardboard box, so everything that comes in that is recyclable. And that's just happened in the last 6 months. So you can do it, you can do it.
Is that because you're buying it direct from Claude Butler who are making it?
No, they're not
So
they're not made by Claude Butler. Don't believe Claude Butler bikes are made by
Right.
Claude Butler.
So-
They're made in China.
So whoever you're,
So Claude Butler have been lobbied enough by people and are astute enough to realise that if they're selling bikes for good living and healthy living, they shouldn't be wrapping in plastic.
yeah,
I suppose
but
it's
what I'm saying is you're buying a
down the
Claude
line.
Butler bike from Claude Butler.
Mm.
So they're the ones that are wrapping and packaging it.
And they're getting the good advert on there.
Oh, yeah, yeah, but what I'm saying is you've lobbied the person
Yeah.
that's produced and sold that bike.
And you've got a merchant.
We're going through
Oh, no,
3
yeah,
different
yeah,
merchants,
yeah.
and I'm sure, you know, the Aldi Centre have a similar thing with suppliers and any other business on the island.
Actually, surprised nobody started a way and save, like in the farm shop, where you actually buy a great big sack of flour and you just put it in a big bag. And they used to have them back in the 80s in the UK. And they've started.
They started up as a paper
Flour
bag.
flour comes in a paper bag.
It's recycled cardboard.
If it comes
Yeah, but
wrapped
this-
in plastic.
It's not just
On the
flour, it's
Right.
Yes.
in a way. so
Yeah, there's one in the
mixed
market you can go
through
to.
and-
There's one in
Yeah.
the market you can go to. You can go in with a glass tub and you just get.
Yeah.
There's loads of them all over Britain now.
Yeah.
Take your own plastic boxes in, like Tupperware boxes to refill.
Great.
Didn't
Make
they
ways
waste
of
it before you do stuff on hair products and soap and things like
Yeah.
that in reusable plastic? I don't know whether anything ever came of it. They had a big thing about 12 months ago for sign up if you were interested in reusable bottles for your shampoo and things, didn't they?
Pharmacy,
I
you're
think-
talking about.
Yeah,
Pharmacy, yeah.
Yeah, well, they still got it.
Have they still got that?
But they're not refilling.
They are.
They're not refilling.
There was a sign saying they would refill.
Oh,
I've got.
I mean, I haven't-
I didn't
Oh,
think they
fine.
were
Yeah, there
refilling,
was a
to be
sign the
honest.
other day saying they were refilling. I mean, it's taken me a year to empty the one. It's nearly there. Don't tell me I can't take
No,
it back.
I got mine refilled the other day.
Thank you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's a sign. I mean,
What's
The product?
shampoo, conditioner.
Conditioner and that sort of.
What, they refill?
Yeah, I know, I've got those in-
Already in that plastic bottle?
No,
When
no,
it's empty.
it's a silk metal bottle.
Yeah,
And they
aluminium.
refill the shampoo or the conditioner.
With shampoo and conditioner, but your brand that you went in and.
No, no,
Yeah.
it's a brand that you buy from them. Quite
like just
expensive.
one brand.
And you
Yeah,
go
it's
back and
just
you
one
refill
brand.
it with the same brand.
So it's not Head and Shoulders then?
No, thank
Or generic conditioner.
When you say expensive, how expensive?
£8 or £9 for a bottle of shampoo that's sort of.
But the bars
And
they do are
lasts forever.
about,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's like
they're much
shampoo
cheaper.
bars, yes.
lasts a long time.
You have to work at it, you have to lather it up.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Because they got £9.
No, the bars are much cheaper. But, yeah.
It is distressing because, you know, we're just all thinking about all this, the damage that's being done to the environment all the time. I just feel like ordering my willow coffin. Because we're all going to be extinct soon.
wallet.
It is, it all boils down to.
As a business, we can go there. Maybe we should start thinking about doing willow.
Well, they are. You can get a
I know,
willow
I-
coffin.
There's been one.
That's, a lot of it all does come down to cost.
We did have a
Yes.
cardboard coffin.
Yeah.
Not my dad.
Good.
Want a little bit off piece there?
Is there any other sort of best practice examples across the different industries here, businesses here that's worth sharing around this forum?
Yeah, is there anything you're doing that you don't think anyone else is
I find
doing?
Hard, because I mean, I buy everything as or as much as I can locally, so it's what the supermarkets and the shops do here.
Yeah.
So certain I can get paper and others, it's all packaged, so I can't do it.
Well, you can get,
Isn't it?
I've got this stuff, is it Be Kind? I can't remember what it's called now, that comes in these paper, well, card things instead of the plastic. You know,
Oh,
like
iron.
shampoos and stuff.
No, I think
I'm talking about for the guests, individual sachets that we.
I'm not thinking of that so much,
Oh.
I'm thinking of day-to-day cleaning things, you know. Food, yeah.
Has any business, no, Blanchard, have you had any things that you've done sort of, or, you know, sort of with thinking of green issues that have done well or not done well?
So the only thing we've really done recently is like I said about the bags. We're trying to phase out plastic bags and brought in reusable, like a proper bag for life. But that's just something we've only just started, so it's too early to say how well it's taken off. And we've sold a few of the reusable bags. We get through less plastic bags because people don't want to even give 10p on the cancer relief, but some have.
Yeah.
So it's a bit early days. We started doing that at the beginning of September. I think
That's
that
good.
took off. So it is something new, and maybe not everyone's aware that we're
Yeah.
doing it.
But I think, yeah, and you got quite a positive response on
We did.
social media. And
Yeah, we
stuff
got a
like
good
that.
response on social media.
We stopped using milk portions several years ago, and we've got a fridge in our dining room which is accessible to everybody. Put small jugs on the top so they can help themselves to how much milk they need.
That's a good thing.
And as a lot of people don't like those little plastic pots, there's not enough in it, and it doesn't taste very nice. So
It's all
quite happy to come and
I've
get
never done
fresh milk daily.
That's what we
As
do.
they want cosmetics.
I've done that years.
We stop using.
But I think that's a really interesting positive thing. Then it's fairly unlikely there's anywhere on the island that uses them then. If you're the small, no, they don't. No, they use, you get a jug in your room.
And Prawn Tetra doesn't, does it?
I doubt it.
No.
Yeah.
It's
But-
fridges in the room.
Yeah, they do. So, I mean, obviously they've got an advantage there. I mean, I don't, obviously I don't know that, but that's quite a nice.
Well, they're in the dark ages, aren't they?
For your little milk.
Because I like the fact that you go into hotels and there's like a warm dispenser, not all the little nookie neckies.
I mean, I try and use the bottles, but I'm a bit.
Yeah.
I can't get good parts on the 4 o'clock in the afternoon, it's on your weeks out and they're coming in.
Sorry, can I
So
ask,
then I end up going,
in-
"Oh,
so England, what sort of little plastic things do you offer? Do you still do the shampoo conditioners in?
I've got, small conditioner, and that's purely because I got a very good deal when Margaret called me.
Okay.
So I bought a load.
Okay.
So I've got to work through that. But for shampoo, I've got one big dispenser in each shower.
See, that's good, isn't it?
So you do that as well, don't you?
Yeah, we refill, a big can, so.
Oh, and so, yeah, liquid soap.
We don't put the little tablets out anymore.
It's amazing how many people still do that. It's true about Guernsey. I don't think I've ever been to a Guernsey hotel yet where they haven't given you the little squiggly bits and.
Well, people don't like using other people's soaps.
I don't like that.
Yeah.
It's the middle of the road, but I use.
Yeah, you can't, you have to use a fresh bar soap.
Because I know these are small things, but at least that's something quite nice and positive that are, that has happened. And I think that's part of the, the Plastic Free Champion Awards, is that we want to kind of recognise the fact that businesses have made these steps and there's got to be something positive in this sort of plastics recycling stuff, which is so depressing. But
We use a lot of the small, like Coca-Cola bottles and Fanta bottles and things like that. You can make sensory bottles for children, either dry ones or wet ones, where you put things in and they shake them up and things swirl around and stuff like that, and then just glue the tops on. Babies and small children love that sort of thing, or they have different weights, or they make different sounds, or whatever it is. Rattles and musical instruments and things like that. We tend to use a lot. If staff are drinking that kind of a drink, we tend to use the bottles for that before we throw them away when they've completely gone past it.
So you're a reusing centre, really.
Well, we do a lot. We do reuse a lot. I mean, we reuse old bits of wallpaper. If people donate us leftover bits of wallpaper, stuff like that. Children love nothing better than being able to cover a huge, great big long piece of paper with paint or other things. You'd be surprised. That kind of thing. So people do donate a lot of that kind of item to us, and we can always find a use for it, because the children love nothing better than getting messy. Should have seen the place this morning.
It's also good for wrapping Christmas presents.
Yeah, absolutely. Or brown paper or anything like that.
I don't know the lady from the commission. I haven't really heard anything from your side. Is there any comments you want to make?
There's not a lot that we can do, but one thing we used to go for was a lot of plastic water bottles, because people in the office didn't really like drinking tap water. Probably went for about 700 a year. So beginning of this year, we got all the staff reusable water bottles and glitter bottles for the fridge. So we cut down on that. And we stopped using our coffee machine, and then we took the pods.
Pods can be exactly.
If you want to.
And you've got a proper pod compostable thing.
Or you can buy possible metal ones that are, you can just reuse, just put it there and coffee, use them instead of it.
So that's kind of stuff.
That's good.
Brilliant. Are there any more sort of further areas that you're struggling with, or are you kind of?
Not really at the moment, it's kind of like to see if there's any ideas that I could use.
What about printer ink?
Oh,
Do we all recycle our ink cartridges?
We try to.
My office.
Does
Try to
it?
get the public to know that.
Do we? Do we give you
Because it
our
always
old
gets put on
printer?
the windows so
There's
that
a-
we
Yeah.
recycle.
Yeah.
You get the
With the
envelopes
batteries.
though with some.
Yeah, no, I mean,
Everybody just brings all their printer ink to me, and we have found a gentleman in Guernsey who will recycle.
So there's the ink cartridges.
All
types.
all printer.
Well, that's, well,
He deals with
something
them,
worth knowing.
Yeah.
so-
It's been like that since ever. It's just a big yellow, so if anybody passes my office, I'm not in there, don't worry, it's a big yellow bag under the bar desk. And you'll see, don't worry about taking out the cardboard box, I'll do all that for you. It's just to make it easy for you, just
So you
chuck it
just-
at me and then I'll sort it out for you.
Do we do the same with batteries by any chance?
No, I'm not a battery, I don't know about batteries.
Down at the recycling, where that little windowsill is that tends to fill up with lots
Yeah.
of.
Batteries and
writing.
print ink.
There's a big sign there that says printer cartridges go to all the shipping.
All the shipping.
And then people leave all their printer cartridges on the windowsill right next to the sign that says printer cartridges.
Well, they might not know where all
And then
the
it
shipping
also
is.
says batteries to the depot.
Yeah.
But we have since
Made me
our
really
platform's
glad I'd
gone
made
up, we
that
have now got a battery bin
Good.
just by the bottle bin.
The thing is, that makes sense, doesn't it? Instead of just fighting it you might as well just go with
Yeah, so
it.
there is a battery bin
In there,
down
yeah.
And it's only, it's
Not
by
just
the
for the
bottle
batteries,
bin.
Right, useful to know.
And will it take all sorts, any sorts of batteries?
Yeah.
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 We have a battery bin behind our.
No, not car.
No car.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, we've got a small tub, which is, you've got designed to keep batteries in, so it's not just you can't keep it a cardboard box and you fire it.
Yeah.
There's a proper battery box, and then if people come into Blanchard and say, oh, I need a battery like that for my clock, we can say, yeah, that's a double A, they can send a new pack of batteries, and they can put their old one in the plastic pot, and then we take it to the.
That's good.
But yeah, there is, it's a yellow bin, it's got the purple battery symbol on it, and it's by the big plastic bottle.
The recycling he takes to the recycling.
He does.
Yeah, it's sat on that concrete pad down
We're
there.
good, we put all our plastic in. Although it's probably
You do,
now-
it's not sorted.
I think even with this small group, it's quite a lot of things we didn't know. So it's very obvious that there's a huge number of people out there that don't know it. So there's quite a lot of things that I think we can get out either in the press or that we've talked about mail drop, check out on the list, that things like the batteries and the printer cartridges, that's at least it's a start, isn't it? Everybody knowing which direction to go in to get these recycled.
Thank you for giving us the opportunity to come and share all this, because it's really important.
It is important. I think it hopefully grow and grow and grow, more and more help and information from the businesses. Any other questions, any other good practice or things people should know?
Can I just say, it would be good, I don't know how easy it is, because of course, it's all very well, but when you're busy in your businesses, you're busy, but it would be nice to think if we could think of ways of reducing costs, doing something that was a good thing, by reducing costs by coming together, like you say, sourcing things where you then don't end up spending so much. I don't know, think of anything else that you could do as a whole.
As a consortium,
Yeah, like a consortium to bring down costs, but making pro decisions. But I don't know what areas you could work together at. Don't know if you have any thoughts.
I mean, I think things like paper bags that are probably quite expensive would be one of the main ones. The thing that we're wondering about, because I don't think there's enough people that are sending stuff off island, because in Penzance and some of the other sort of places that are really going for it with the plastic-free stuff, they do like pack swaps. So it's when businesses get lots of like plastic bags and bubble wrap, you sort of, come in here and then anyone that needs them can just swap it. But I don't know that there's enough people sending stuff off island that would need it, if that makes sense.
I actually use anything for when guests buy a plate and when the shops or an ornament. I've always got bubble wrap for them to use and take away, so it's not getting taken down to new plates.
We get a lot of people coming down to the recycling looking for the little polystyrene balls.
Oh, like the
Yeah,
peanuts.
and they say, oh, we've got those, and they take what we might have for packaging stuff to send it flying, but it's rare that people do come down for that sort of thing.
Because I think that's quite a good sort of reuse,
Yeah.
especially when the manufacturers are sending it and we've not been able to get them to stop
And
yet.
it'd be better if
But
there was a
I don't know
place
how
on
much
islands
demand there would be.
that if there
Yeah.
was a place on island for that sort of thing, polystyrene balls to be put up. Said,
And yeah,
tell
bubble
people
wrap.
and say,
It's
"Look,
the
they're
storage,
there."
isn't it?
People
Yeah,
can take
it's
them.
storage.
There's not that much being sent off anymore.
It would
There's just
help.
a lot.
Yeah, I think that's the
Stuff on
problem.
there, and Since they changed the VAT rules, there's not a lot. That's right.
Can I just check this thing about the glass? You said does all glass end up
In the sea,
sea?
yes.
And you see,
And that includes, because we've been told that any broken pottery and stuff like that, that goes in there as well. And the same, that just gets smashed up and goes into the sea. But ultimately that does degrade without doing as
If
much damage as
people
plastic, right?
don't put other things in the glass recycling, and if people take the lids and labels and whatever else on.
So the lids and labels
Yeah,
are supposed to
be
be
off.
It's not gonna, it's just, it's not.
That's gonna return
So
to
you mean
It's
for all my bottles of wine, I've got to take all the labels
Well,
off
this is
it?
it. This
I
is
never
the-
have.
Well, I mean,
Same-
paper labels, it doesn't matter so
same
much,
tins,
but
tins,
quite often it's the
cans,
plastic, yeah.
It has to, yeah, it can't,
Labels
it's paper.
so
It's
that
going back to its
aluminium.
naked, its original form, before it was all labellised and.
It takes a long time to turn that.
Yeah.
It's common sense though, isn't it? The tin is metal.
How many
the label
labels
is
Well, it
paper.
depends on what they're doing to it. You know, I just always thought that these things were somehow
No, but how many-
melted and then the paper would just burn off. Because if you're paying, staff, you don't want to pay them to wash out everything and take off the
I've
labels.
watched some videos on like aluminium being recycled and seen how it gets shredded. And all the bits of paper, these machines have got air and it
They just-
blows,
yeah.
it blows the paper off to a different section. of the
That's what I
waste
thought.
basket to a different section.
Contaminated items.
But these machines are massive.
So they're not the ones we use.
Can that go on the?
Yes,
Take the labels off.
Can I summarise then? So I think more publicity in the leaflet going out to the public about taking off your glass bottles, taking the lids off.
And even the labels of plastic bottles, that should all be coming off.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Lucasade bottles and stuff,
And the lids.
makes it
I think,
unrecyclable.
sorry, so on the glass, because of the process that we use in Alderney, it's important to take things off the bottles because it's going over the IMPO into the sea. With regards to plastics and other things, tins, what we'll do is we'll carry out some research to actually find out whether it makes a difference, because if it's not happening in Guernsey or it is happening, you know, I think before we make that as sort of public information, let's do a bit of research around what happens to it at the end of the day, if you're all happy with that.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Don't actually wash
I mean, we need
before
to
they
know.
put it in a recycling
Yes.
bin.
Like,
Can we recycle the lids? I believe we can, can't we? Put them in the metal thing, right?
Yeah.
Even though they've got a little plasticky bit inside them, haven't they?
What about aluminium foil? Does that go in the plastic and the metal thing as well? Can you?
Yeah.
Can we do?
it
Because
should
on the
be
mainland you do
about
that.
a ball about
I
this
only learned
size as
this
well.
recently. We're supposed to ball it all up
Because
to be like
otherwise
a
it
tennis
tends
ball
to
or
fall
something.
off, fall out of
really?
machines.
I didn't know
and stuff
that.
like
Yeah, I only knew this about a month ago, and I have a jar and I keep all
Aluminium
my
foil.
little bits of aluminium.
Oh, foil.
Stuff like this, see? I used to just shove in home. Not anymore. I have to wait, and
Fall through the hole with the cake.
my contact lenses. You know, they've got a little foil bit on the top, and then they've got a plastic bit underneath.
That's not, is that foil though, or is that a plastic?
I thought it was
Or is it like a
plastic.
crisp packet?
It's
It's a bit like a crisp packet.
It's
isn't it? To me,
foil.
That's waste. That's why you recycle them.
But didn't they have that thing with Walkers where everybody was sending back their crisp packets to get them in order to make them?
You should just put them under the grill and make them into lovely little badges.
No, hold on. Can we use the tops of the contact lens things?
Well, I don't know, I don't
Recycle
use
them.
contact lenses.
I think
so-
they're.
So, yeah.
I
doubt
they're
it.
like this.
They can't be just foil, they must be plasticized on the inside.
Yeah.
So we
Absolutely.
So
can't
no.
recycle that. Well, I've been faithfully recycling them.
Sorry, I missed that. What can't we recycle?
Your foil. I'm joking. I don't want to be. That's the thing. I don't want to be the problem. I want to be,
Yeah.
doing it properly.
And it's the same with medicines, because if you've got a foil pack of tablets, you've got plastic on the one side, and you've got a bit of foil on the other side of it.
Can't be.
So can you recycle that?
No,
It's
never.
really been-
Any of these
What,
sort of
plastic
like a
and the foil?
Pringles tub,
Yeah,
all these
Tetra
things that are like, yeah.
Tetra Packs are
Well,
recyclable.
they're recyclable in the fact that
They
have to
can
go
be
somewhere
recycled.
Special. They're not, they shouldn't be going with the cardboard because they're not cardboard.
Well, they do.
They shouldn't be going with the tins because they're not tin. They shouldn't be going with the plastic because they're a bit of plastic, they're a bit of card, they're a bit of foil.
But, tell me, Peter, where do I put them? Which of my bins do I put them in then?
General
Bins.
waste.
So they're going in the
We worked out-
landfill.
we worked
I
out
call
that
mine
we need
landfill,
27,000.
plastic. You're telling me Tetra Packs go in landfill?
We-
But that was not what we were told before there was a leaflet that came out that said Tetra Packs can go in with the cardboard.
Well,
Yeah, but then
27,000 of them
as
for one
the-
bale. So where are we going to put 27,000 on this island until we can bail them out? It's not economical to do
So
that.
it's
here.
probably the right place to put them, but it's not economical.
Well,
so small.
Well,
they
We
can't-
don't have the.
I read it on a
The
leaflet,
scales.
which was in
Yeah,
my
because,
fridge.
but then the Guernsey system has recently changed. That's what, like, we
What
can't,
we have been
that's
told
why we've
recently,
updated the
from
signs.
Richard going to Guernsey last week, is he said we can start putting it in the clean waste at the INPO because Guernsey do sort through it all, so Guernsey will start pulling the Tetra Packs
What do you
out.
call clean waste?
Well,
Black-
you know at the INPO
black.
where all the, where all like the couches and all that sort of stuff
Yeah.
gets thrown in there.
Mattresses,
That's we call clean waste.
So we could put all our Tetra Packs down
can go
there.
there because then Guernsey, when that gets to Guernsey, Guernsey do then sort through it all, so they can pull the Tetra Packs and put it with their Tetra Packs. Because they are obviously.
Because, I mean, we do get through stuff
We're only
like
just
that, don't
learning
we?
this ourselves.
Juices.
We're only just learning this
I'm not
ourselves.
going to drive down to the Info.
No,
No,
but you can
no.
put it through the other plastic window in the recycling as well.
Plas-
Put it through
Other,
there.
other plastics.
Other
down at-
plastics.
Down at recycling as well, because
So the
again,
Tetra
Guernsey
Packs-
is going to pick through that.
Well, you've
whole
been getting it in my car.
Yeah, hold on.
Lid on
And I think
usually.
there is,
Yeah.
within Alderney, there's a keenness to,
Sorry.
Sorry.
so we'll obviously review our waste strategy. There's also, Richard was looking at, your point about taking it down to the INPO or the recycling centre.
Yeah.
So if we can have one central place
Yeah.
that the public goes to, rather than having to go all over the place, I think also would be important.
Yeah, we're trying, we do have that, there's a yellow bin down there as well with, it's very small at the moment, we need to try and get a bigger sign that says Tetra Packs. But again, any Tetra Packs that go in it will end up going with the other plastic. Because again, we just can't store 27,000 of them to the end. Well, we actually worked it out. We tried it for a month, or no, for 3 months we tried it. We just kept getting the Tetra Packs, put them into one of the big green bins, and it took 3 months to fill one of the big green bins. We then crushed that in the baler, and the baler came out like that big. And for the amount of manpower, the amount of time to get it, it's just not economical to do that. So
And yet the person who invented Tetra Packs was a multi-millionaire. It's all wrong somehow.
Well, there you go.
So
Yeah.
someone invented Tupperware as well.
Well, I found that really useful. I hope you all have as well. We'll certainly go away with the working group and using the flip chart as well, look at some of the actions, and we'll probably be in touch with you as well, just to let you know where we're taking
One thing we
things.
did talk about was how we can incentivise businesses to reuse, recycle, and there's any ideas for incentives, because people always look on incentives, they buy in, don't they, if there's an incentive or something for them, or I don't know.
Why don't the states
Claire's
look at
got
doing
more.
some sort of green grant or something for businesses on the island? It doesn't have to be a massive amount, but it'd be something that helps, otherwise it's not gonna work, is it? Businesses need to sustain themselves on the island, otherwise we're not gonna have them, and then we're down to nothing.
So if we could get I'm not, this would be a
No,
political
no, of
decision, but
course,
what
I
would,
mean-
it would be incentivizing businesses to do what?
Well, to source additional bags that, that can be reused, paper, and anything that takes
So
away
setting up
from-
things like refill systems, that is going to cost a lot of money.
Yeah, I mean, in a card shop, cards come wrapped in plastic. Granted, we are making a change. Certain suppliers are using cornstarch, but then you're saying that there's certain plastics that they're using that can't be recycled. And you're like,
It gets complicated.
it does, and it's,
very
it really does fall down to the manufacturers, not the suppliers.
I
And
actually
this is
think from listening today, one of the main things is educating everybody.
One
on
hundred
recycling.
percent, yeah, it really is.
Because I've learned a lot from things today just about recycling.
So a flyer is a good start, isn't it?
As long as it doesn't
An
come wrapped in
interesting
plastic.
flyer.
It's compostable.
I think that what Michelle's saying, plastics for businesses, like, so as far as, I think we're in the same sort of boat as you, like what we get at Blanchard's, what you get in the Olney Centre. It's the manufacturers, what they're packaging it in before they distribute it.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot, it sounds awful, it sounds lame, but there's, as a small business, there's not a lot we can do against multinational companies that continue to package their stuff in non-recycled materials, or even using plastics where they don't need to use plastics.
Yeah, like magazines, come
Yeah.
in plastic bags.
I mean-
Why?
I mean, like I said, that Stanley knives, the Stanley tape measure comes on what looks like a card that you hang up, but it's plastic. It's like a stiff,
Yeah.
don't even know if it's recyclable. It's a nightmare to get the tape measure off because you can't even cut the thing. Once in the tape, and the Stanley knife's worse, you can't cut that because the thing you're going to cut it with is inside. So, and until they start sending stuff out packaged differently, there's not an awful lot to do. So I think it's something that needs to be done nationally.
You're right.
So once,
And it's baby
yeah, and it's not
steps.
even the states of
Right.
Olney, it's the UK governments, it's world governments, that they need to be getting onto the manufacturers of these global companies and saying, look, you've got to stop.
Yeah.
Give them an incentive to package their stuff differently. Like you reduce the cardboard, the plastic that you're packaging your products in, and we'll give you a tax reduction on it, whatever. They need the incentive to stop sending this stuff out. And then we've got a choice of which materials we buy. It's like, oh, we won't buy that tape measure because they're still using plastics. We'll buy that one because they're not.
But it can be enforced because they're already taxing on things with too much sugar now, aren't they?
Well, they are. And then this needs to be the next move, but it's something that needs to be done at national level. It's not as a business, even
Even as a small island.
Yeah.
I mean, it's great that the steps that are being taken on this.
Yes.
And it really is. It's a massive improvement.
It is,
but
definitely.
Manufacturers need to kick up the backside.
Yeah.
And who
Do you
can
think
that?
even as as a statement, if the states of Alderney wrote to obviously it's a small island again, but if they wrote to the UK government just to say like, we are a small island, we see these impacts every
We've
day.
signed up to that petition.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. Like, if we could
Definitely.
come
Yeah.
together and say, these are all UK islands, and just say,
But also as well to get feedback on what they are proposing
Yeah.
they're going to do, rather than just being pushed to the sidelines, which does happen quite a lot.
It's them to write to
Information needs to be filtered through.
UK governments, European governments, whatever, and say, it could be all these islands, and say that because of our situation, because we're so close to the sea, because of the damage to sea creatures and the sea environment, the seabed affects everything, we're worried about the use of plastics, and we're concerned, about on a global scale, national scale. Then
and we want to see,
we want
bigger
to see
taxes
you
on
make
the
changes,
manufacturers.
or
and-
encourage
Yeah.
manufacturers to make changes. Then
If they're not making changes, then they should be receiving penalties,
Mhm.
because actually they are being the main cause.
Yes, the polluter pays. Sort of, yeah.
But we're talking about all these packaging, but they put plastic in your clothes now as well.
They do, they put plastic in all sorts of places. It's one of the things I said when I filled in the thing was, on the survey, was, you just don't know sometimes that you've actually got plastic in things.
I saw something on about they were doing something measuring how much plastic was in water, and there was some remote place in America that had nobody's living there. It's completely remote out in the mountains, and they found microplastics in the water, and it was in the rain.
Yeah.
because it's being evaporated from the other areas and then raining, and they're even finding microplastics, just like that.
So sort of just bringing it back to what we can do locally, and obviously we're at the moment looking at sort of voluntary measures that businesses and the public can bring in. We've talked about a consortium set up to encourage sort of economies of scale with paper bags. Do you think it's worthwhile sort of widening that to things like straws and single-use cups?
Paper straws still have a plastic tubing in them anyway. Paper straws. They've still got the film on.
I think it's usually a wax. Usually, yeah, which can, yeah. So generally they're wax, which is recyclable, but it's so tricky when they look.
They come in a plastic bag.
I mean, perhaps we'll come back to that particular point then. I mean, Claire's done some good work with the takeaway single-use cups. I don't know if you want to just talk that one through.
Because that was one of the things that has always been a bit of a disappointing thing, I think, in that there hasn't been anyone that's like banned or just got rid of disposable coffee cups from their business. So we went back to speak to some of them again, and I think the Georgian are planning now to just stop doing disposable cups. So you would have to bring your own, and then the farm shop are going to up their price for a disposable cup to 50p. So it's now £1 if you bring a cup and £1.50 if you just use theirs. So things like that, I think, are a bit more. So it's costing you more to not bring a cup. If that makes sense.
Yeah, but what cups are they using?
So you could hang on. Oh, you mean the
If you paid £1.50, what cup are they giving you?
They're saying take their own.
takeaway cup?
It's a takeaway cup. Yeah, but what's it made of?
That's sort of the point. So we're trying to get
So it's
less
single use.
people.
Whereas
So
if you
the-
pay £1, you take your own
Take
mug
your own.
and you
Yeah,
get
I
it
get
filled
that,
up.
but it's the consumer again who is paying the penalty. Are they using eco-friendly cups that they are charging you 50p for?
No, they're just
Why
coffee
not charge
cups.
an extra £1 and give the cup that they can bring back again in one day? Charge them an extra.
Like the ones they did for the pint, the pint ones they did with Oswald.
Yeah.
You bought your beaker and then you just take it back with you.
Yeah, but then you end up with 7 of them.
70, it's great.
I've got about 5 from the Salt Brook Festival.
There we are. So it really doesn't work, does it?
And
It doesn't work.
using.
No, but I don't need 7 of these.
But the thing
Plastic
is, you
mugs.
probably didn't buy 7, you probably picked them up.
I've
on your
acquired,
own
I have
home.
acquired.
Next door you
Oh,
week,
yes,
give
yeah.
6 of them out to your friends, and then we'll go to Cavalcade together and
I'm sorry, apologies, the boat's just backloading now, so I've got to go back to see. Okay.
I've had enough.
Sorry about that.
I think the incentive that Georgian were using and other places, PJ's, somewhere else was using it as well, was the all these builders that are coming on site at the moment, to try and discourage them, because they're often going, we watch them go past cycle serve, so 2 or 3 times a day, getting disposable cups and plastic lids, and it was trying to incentivise them to use their mugs and go with their mugs, which they are doing.
Why ever didn't they bring their flasks? Everyone used to take a flask.
Sorry, it's important. Take a cup.
I didn't realise they did coffee.
You take a mug in and they will fill your coffee.
Yeah. Well, so yeah, that's what we're trying to encourage is to people to. I mean, yeah, you can bring anything. It can be your China mug.
Well, why don't you make your coffee at home in a flask, which is what people
Because
always have
it's-
done
We were
forever.
talking about this the other day, weren't we? It's funny how it's on a small community like this, you're all going, oh, no, I'll go and get coffee, I'll go and get coffee. But you've got no miles to go. You take a flask in the UK, you would take a packed
Yeah.
lunch. You're not,
Yeah.
it's crazy.
But yeah, because I think that's one of the ones where we're still falling down is things like coffee cups, because there are still a lot being used.
And perhaps you should do promotional flasks.
I think every shop in town sells flasks.
Every shop sells. We do sell quite a lot of flasks, but you'd be amazed how.
We didn't know when to use them.
I'm just like, oh, I'm going to grab a coffee.
I've never done that in my life, gone and grabbed a coffee.
I think what would be interesting from this group is a bit of feedback, because the Chamber of Commerce felt that they didn't we weren't at the right time a couple of months ago to ban plastic bags, which was a question we were asked. Were we in favour of banning plastic bags? And we said, in our opinion, we felt that people, to put a ban in place, you've got to police it. How are you going to police it? What are the penalties if you're caught selling plastic bags or caught with a plastic bag that you just bought? So that's quite difficult because it's very difficult to give penalties. But we felt at that time we needed to re-educate people and educate them. So how would this group feel if we do all of this in the leaflet and educate, but then do a ban on plastic bags?
Or
Because that's what
maybe
states are asking
things
for.
like straws,
Yeah.
like,
I think
Yeah.
it ought to ban.
If you ban plastic bags, I've got about 500 in my house.
yeah, so it wouldn't be banning you from having them. It would, yes, it would be, you can't give them out anymore.
Or sell them.
But no shops.
Yeah, that makes sense, but there's obviously a.
Because I think the sort of
Where do you draw
benefit,
the line at plastic bags?
And yes, because of things like bin liners, bin bags and things like
Yeah.
that, which we
Carry
wanted
bags,
to
I think,
put on.
I think carrier
The
bags.
carrier bags, which is what
What's
they're doing
that?
in the UK, they've been paying 10, and they keep putting that up to 10, 15 p
Oh,
now.
is it plastic?
Someone's
Yeah.
just charged
Most-
75p.
So they're literally just talking about the ban on plastic
Careful.
carrier bags.
Yeah.
So obviously something like that bag, that those bags are coming, that's not banned.
No.
It's just
But
that
ultimately,
Like
if you
a carrier
printed bag like,
yeah,
like
You can't
that,
have
black
yeah.
chance.
Brilliant example.
Yeah.
but it's bringing them in to sell. You can't. I mean, people use those pick up plastic off the beach and
Where?
then big
Says it is.
reuse them.
Yeah.
People do reuse them, but that's what the chamber felt at the time is exactly what you said. We'll have to ban it, and you've got people who are saying from reusing them. But it's bringing them into the island, so to stop shops from buying in
I think
plastic bags.
it would work more if businesses weren't allowed to bring them in. I think there'd have to be a period of grace for you to get rid of the
Yeah.
ones you've got. You know, we've probably got about 5,000
Yeah, we're selling that.
bags at home, at Blanchard's, which we need to get rid of, which we do want to get rid of, which is why we're trying to sell them. And our idea is, once those are gone, isn't to buy them again. That is our idea. But doing it, enforcing it would make more sense than being voluntary, because obviously you can have somebody then saying, oh, that's not bringing them in.
No, I don't think it should be voluntary.
No.
Well,
It's-
that's
it
the
has to be
thing, because then
everybody.
you're not on the same playing field, and yet all you need is one person be like, well, I'm going
Yeah,
to do
so
it.
it'd have to be, it would have to get
So we
that.
can
Exactly,
use fair
that's-
to
yeah.
ban it until we've gone through this process and re-educated people as to
And
why.
then
what we
it's
can
got to be like a date in the future, so like
Yeah.
by the
Yeah.
1st of January 2021, you know, so you
I
give
think
people
that
time
is
to get rid of-
actually the date that most
Mm.
EU countries are going for is
Right.
2021, so.
Right.
You'd be able to use 10,000 bags in that one.
That's a double.
Well, in Jersey have that, it's yeah.
No, ours have got Blanchard's, I like that. We're far superior to Northern Beer. We actually went over to our own printed bags before Northern Beer did in Guernsey. They still haven't got their cloth bags printed. And we were doing charitable donations before Northern Beer. Claudia, not printed, they're embroidered.
Okay. The other items that cause some distress at the moment, people have plastic sachets of sauces, the tomato sauce. I don't know what your opinion is on
General
that.
waste people, general waste.
You use big things, the bigger ones are cheaper than the other ones.
Mm.
Put a couple of teaspoons in a little pot and put it on the table.
That's what they do at the Georgian, isn't it?
Mm.
Like that.
You don't have to
Like
really
one
make it, do you?
thing
It's-
on the
So obvious.
The brown bags that the farm shop use that they put your meat in, is that actually recyclable? Because it's like all you need.
It's basically the same as Tetra Paks and coffee cups,
Yeah.
so it technically would be recyclable,
Yeah.
but it,
If we've been throwing it with the cardboard, I mean, everybody keeps putting it in paper, and we keep having to take it out.
So we should
Yeah.
have put it in the
Big
Tetra
ones
Pak
left,
place.
And about.
in the bin, really.
In the bin, in the-
Yeah.
That's what I
I
thought.
mean, because it's brown,
Oh, they do as well.
brown
Yeah.
paper is actually cardboard.
So
you just-
I remember when these came in, and I
Um,
took me ages. I rang them
yeah,
up,
the
the
This is interesting
manufacturer,
for us
and they
all to
said,
know, guys.
The meat
yeah,
bags.
basically like
The
it
meat
is
bags.
recyclable.
Look, Claire is just telling us.
But yeah, so basically, I rang up the manufacturer when they first sort of arrived on the island a couple of years ago, and yeah, they are technically recyclable, but they said they thought it was unlikely that they would be, not least because they've probably got blood and whatever else in. So, because they're lined with plastic. So it's like the coffee cup problem. There is a plant in the UK that can do it, but the likelihood of our recycling,
I mean, like I say, down
is that and like being
recycling,
sent there, it's,
we do put them with the cardboard bales down the recycling just because they're brown paper.
Yeah.
But we don't physically know what's happening to it once it's gone to Guernsey, and then
so things like that, you'd be better to throw in the bin, yeah.
Well, just like we can take our containers back and get them filled in at the Cokes. You know, you could take back your little plastic container and get it filled up with olives or whatever.
Oh,
Can we
yeah.
not do the same at the farm shop? We could take our
Yeah,
Tupperware
certainly, they said that they're more
and
than
we with a
Yeah.
lid and we say, would you like to put my stewing steak in
We'll
there?
do that for you.
Yeah.
We will
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah,
So
they said
that's-
they're more than
That's a
happy.
good thing to encourage, again, to inform people of, isn't it?
Yeah, no, they've said that when they start getting the plaques, Tracy works there, and when they start getting those butcher's bags in, they did say that you could bring in your own container and say, put my meat in that, and they will do that for you.
Yeah, and likewise.
Are they weighing the meat on first, a plastic bag, but then?
I think